Hey, and welcome to Mighty Fine Shindig, a Firefly podcast from Common Room Radio. I'm Liz Stevens.
I'm Sarah Kate Pizant.
And I'm Vinton Bain. And I shaved my beard off for you, devil woman!
I really want to see him with the full beard, though.
Yeah, that was
right?
That was
amazing.
a massive stash.
Yes,
That thing was
absolutely.
not
big
messed
Only
around.
imagine how
stash.
big that beard must have been.
Oh man, how did
Glorious
Mal even
beard.
recognize him if he no longer had the soup catcher,
Right.
the chin wig?
Gross.
So this week we're talking about Trash, the 11th episode of Firefly, another heist episode very
Yeah.
shortly after
That's
our last
right.
one.
And the return of Saffron and Christina
Yep.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Gotta love that.
I do.
It's the
very
return of a
much.
lot of people, actually. We are getting director Vern Gillum from Shindig, writer
Oh.
Ben Edlund from Janestown, and
Yes.
writer Jose Molina from Ariel return to collaborate in this episode.
That makes sense that the Ariel writer was in this because we got a lot
Yep.
of that heist stuff again.
Yep.
I like
Yeah,
that.
Joss Whedon, I guess, said, and with Ben Edlund, I assume, that they wanted another heist episode because they enjoyed that last one so much.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, we obviously loved Shindig and
Yes.
Jamestown
Yes.
and Ariel, and
Right.
so naturally,
This is the perfect creative team here.
really,
There you
it
go.
is. This is an excellent episode. I feel like we're finally back into everyone's characterization that we're familiar with, and we're not having to like
no
stumble
one
over.
was super weird this week.
no one
which
was.
nice.
Everybody was on point. They
Yes.
were on fleek. Is that a thing that kids still say?
I think that maybe, I don't know, we're old officially, I guess.
It's true,
'cause
yeah.
That's a thing that old people say.
Oh boy! If we're
Is-
saying it, the kids defo are not saying it.
Well, yeah.
They're saying
Yes.
something like on tweak.
Whatever it is, you won't understand it.
This is a fact. Yes. The thing about youth culture is I don't understand it.
The thing about youth culture is that youth culture is a thing.
We should ask Mackenzie. She's our youngest Oddwonk, right?
We should. Yes.
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie, what are the kids
What are the
saying
kids
now?
saying these
What do the
days?
kids
If they don't say
Mackenzie?
on fleek, what do they say?
So, one of the interesting notes that I have about this episode before we dive right into the meat of it is that Ben Edlund had hoped that Saffron would be a returning character often over the
Oh.
next few seasons of Firefly if it were to continue.
Break my heart. Yeah.
And that he would become a romantic foil with Nathan Fillion, Mal, and that it would drive up a bit of jealousy with Inara.
okay.
One of the things
I
he
can
wanted to
see them
set
laying that out.
up in this episode was to show that even if that was going to happen, that Inara and Mal are the better team.
Yes, they are.
Okay, sure. All right. Yeah, I can see that.
But he really wanted to highlight the dynamics of these three characters with this episode, and I think he does a good job.
I think so
I think so too. I'm so glad that we get Saffron back because Christina Hendricks, of course, just does an amazing job.
She does.
And
She's great.
I find her character to just be super duper interesting, like legitimately interesting. Especially in this episode, there are a couple of moments where I'm just like, I wish we could have stayed here for just
For a
a
little
little
longer.
longer and learned just a little more about this. She
Right.
does great in this episode.
This episode has two writers collaborating who are returning, and Jose Molina, one of the writers, said that at this point in the scripting of the show, there'd been so much going on with previous episodes that it become necessary to do collaborative writing with other writers so that you could remember everything that was going on, and so
Oh,
that,
wow.
that voice would carry on, and it wouldn't be a new writer picking up every time, but now they have returning
Yeah.
writers and then collaborative writers of tying
Smart.
those ends together and trying to make it feel more fluid and like a unity here. And I think this episode does accomplish that.
Yeah.
I agree.
One note from the book I actually pointed out, and the only reason I wrote it down is because I think you'll like it, Liz, is that Nathan Fillion compared what he played Mal as, the way that he thought of Mal and the way that he played him, a mean version of Charles Ingalls, Pa from Little House on the Prairie.
Wow, a mean version. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I love Pa from Little House on the Prairie. He's a big hero of mine. Wow.
So even to Nathan Fillion, Mal is dad.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's sweet. Yeah.
Headcanon has become canon.
really
Also,
like that.
a note for Sarah that I think she will like. He also said that he doesn't have to worry about how to react to Saffron's seductions when acting. That he is just standing there getting some love from Christina Hendricks and loving it.
Yes, yes,
Sure.
I enjoy that note. You were correct. Who would not want Christina Hendricks to just flirt with them on screen for many, many
Yeah.
takes? I would love it on purpose. No, please continue. Seduce me, Christina.
So in this episode, we're going to see naked Nathan Fillion.
We are.
And-
Cute butt, Nathan
Yeah.
Fillion.
Yeah, anyway.
Nathan Fillion described filming this in the nude as completely different than when they filmed nude sequences with, say, Inara bathing. When that happened,
yeah.
they would shut down the set. No one was allowed on. They would do these things. When he did it, every single person showed up to watch him.
That's awesome.
Will you tell me the thing that you told earlier about his quote unquote wardrobe during his nude scenes?
Yeah, he did, of course, wear something to cover his manhood. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but he.
Made me giggle.
I think it was described as a small mitten, but I don't know exactly. But Nathan Fillion did not think this was enough. And
okay. Well, yeah. I think at least needs a large mitten, right? At least a medium-sized, average mitten.
I really hope this is not the episode where Nathan Fillion starts listening to our podcast.
Hey, I didn't describe it as a small mitten. The internet did.
We're sure he has a very handsome, wonderful
mitten filler.
Mitten filler. That's the name of the episode, right there.
So he decided he needed an extra layer of covering, and printed out a picture of Joss Whedon's face and wore it over his crotch.
No, that's weird. I don't like that.
I don't know if he did that throughout the whole film, but that was a thing that he did that made everyone laugh. And, he's a practical joker on set. So.
No, that makes me really happy. I don't think it's weird at all because now whenever he's walking up, especially at the end of the episode, and everybody's just kind of like glancing like, oh, there's my naked cat. What they're not seeing is their director's face.
Yep, that's what he said. He said if anyone happened to look down, they would see Joss Whedon's face.
Wow. Wow.
And apparently at the end of the episode, we get, and I noticed this when we watched it just a moment ago, that Wash looks down, and this wasn't scripted, I guess. He looks down, and he's so bemused, he's unable to form a sentence, shakes his head, and walks off.
Well, it's that mitten filler.
That's right. So we break into our cold open, and we get Mal sitting there naked in the desert.
We sure do. Quite an opening.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pleased with it. In fact, I was actually watching, and my son Corbin came up next to me, said, "Why he got no clothes on?" That's a good question, son.
That's a good question. Now, you might notice that there's a marking on
I did
Mal's
notice that, a
hip
tattoo?
or upper leg there. It is a tattoo. It's an actual Nathan Fillion tattoo.
Is it really?
And it's an Egyptian glyph meaning peace. Nathan Fillion got it at the age of 19 and reportedly regrets it.
I thought it was kind of cool. Yeah. I actually thought it was the Firefly at first, and then we got closer. I was like, nope, I don't know what
that would be. That would be weird to tattoo your ship on your hip.
It is a weird place for a tattoo.
For a man. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, to each their own. It's your body, Nathan. You do whatever you gotta do,
I liked
man.
it.
More power to
cool.
you.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say a weird place for a tattoo on a man, just unusual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just an unusual choice.
Yes.
But I liked it.
Time for some thrilling heroics.
So we slowly zoom in on him, sitting in the desert in the nude. And he says, yeah, that went well.
Yep.
And then we go to 72 hours earlier, which, if you are thinking about it, must be on a different planet because 72 hours would be the exact same time of day 3 days earlier, and yet it's nighttime now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Which bothered me at first until I realized, oh, wait, they're not on the same planet here.
Totally different place. Yeah.
I did not think about that, of course, because numbers mean nothing to me, really.
You and me both, sister.
Right?
Mal is meeting a fellow Independence soldier turned smuggler, Monty, for an exchange of goods on a job, and he finds out about Monty's new wife, Bridget, who we know as Saffron.
That's right. Go
And
ahead.
it is one of the shortest cold opens that we have.
Yep.
And
It's great, though.
it is absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I love Monty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Monty immediately.
I love
Just like, yep, I like this guy.
Instantaneously love Monty.
The phrase soup catcher.
Yeah, he shaved off his soup catcher, got rid of that ugly chin wig.
I like Mal's acting there, or I like Nathan Fillion's acting there as Mal, when he's like, you change something. Something's different here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My one thing against Monty is that he calls Serenity a sorry-ass ship, and I'm
That's
like,
true,
excuse you,
but
sir.
I think that was
I think
just
he's
friendly ribbing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's ribbing Mal. Obviously, they've got the war buddies thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, talking about his wife, Bridget, and then out pops tiny, short Christina Hendricks.
I did not realize, is she actually short? Have we talked
I
about
don't
this?
know.
I just always
We could
assumed
look
that
up
she
her
was a
height,
tall
but-
lady. And then in this episode, she just seems tiny.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was camera tricks.
Apparently, Christina Hendricks is 5'7".
That's not.
That's not too
super
terribly
short,
tall
but it's
for
not
I mean, she's 5 inches taller
either.
than I am. Hang
Yeah.
on. Nathan Fillion is 6'2".
There
Okay,
you go.
so
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah,
Yep.
and Monty was obviously a beast.
Yes.
So
Obviously,
yeah.
around that height as well.
So,
Nope, go ahead.
so the rest of the scene, the whole thing we get for this cold open is both of them pulling guns on each other.
Which was great.
Monty saying, So you guys have met.
It's so good. It's
Cute.
so great. I love it so much. I love that Monty is not at all like, he's not terribly concerned. He's just sort of like, yes, I see the situation for what it is. So you met then, all right?
You're in the business of smuggling. This is probably a natural occurrence.
Oh, for sure. I mean, gosh, you either hug or draw guns on each
That's
other.
right.
That's the way that it is in smuggling. Some of them probably draw guns and then hug.
Could be.
So take my land. We get our intro.
Of course.
And then we come back with our act 1. And Monty says, Mal, why you got your piece trained on my wife?
Which sounds dirty when you say it that way.
Sure
Actually.
does. I'm
Anyway.
sorry. It's just the way my voice works.
Put your small mitten away.
And Mal informs him she ain't your wife because she's my wife.
Yes. And then they have this quick fight scene
Yeah.
with Monty just kind of like...
What do you guys think of this fight scene?
I like that she kicks the gun out of his hand that way. It's
gun
very
kick
like
was cool.
ballet looking. It's very
yep.
nice.
I think it's really funny whenever Mal Squirrel jumps over
Yes,
at her.
lunges.
With
Like,
the squirrel ninja jump.
Full
Is that
spread
not
lunge.
just silly?
like just leaps on top of her the whole time. Monty's just like, hey, you guys quit that. Quit it.
Yeah,
Hey.
he's just like willing to let it go for a while.
Like
He's like,
it's
Mal.
kids fighting in the
Yeah,
yard.
right. And then he like grabs them by their ears and
Yes.
picks them up in a park.
Yeah, as they're on the ground rolling around, he just picks both of them up.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh man. Yeah,
And-
it's kind of it's a silly little fight sequence, but I think it's supposed to be. I think they
Yes.
did that on
Yes,
purpose. Yeah.
yeah, definitely so. And Mal tells Monty of his fake marriage to her and says,
Right.
and then she says, "You're a liar, Malcolm Reynolds." And Monty assumes that Mal is telling the truth because she obviously knows Mal. He never told her his name.
Mm-hmm.
Although this seems a little bit flimsy to me because she may know him and that may not be the circumstance.
It's true, exactly. Yeah.
But
Well-
he just takes it for what it is, and that's
Sure.
what he goes with. And she doesn't fight it. She goes
Yeah.
with it too and says, well, be that way.
Well, hell,
and I
be
think
that
again,
way then.
yeah.
Which I
think
really
it's
love
the
that
war buddy
response.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Saffron in this episode. She's so good. So then we see Monty and all of his crew are leaving, and we hear Monty screaming down
Yep.
at Saffron.
Yeah, their ship seems a little unnecessarily big with that giant
Right?
opening at the bottom where they throw the bag out and it's got
Yeah.
the flashing lights like an old UFO
It's a
movie or
very
something.
UFO
yeah.
movie ship. I thought that too. I was like, this is like the X-Files UFOs.
Right.
What is going on here? This is weird. But yep.
Well, to each their own. You know,
Sure.
not everybody can have the serenity.
And he
You know,
says,
true.
I shaved my beard off for
I
you,
did
devil
too
woman.
earlier.
I shaved my beard off for you, devil woman.
And while Saffron's digging through her bag, Mal pulls his gun on her because she could be
Mm-hmm.
digging through a gun. And turned out she's just getting lipstick, but Mal knows better and says,
Right.
you and lipstick are a dangerous combination,
Also
if I
deadly.
recall.
Chucks it out into the desert.
And then Mal begins to pat her down.
She, you missed a spot.
She just never
Yep.
quits.
Can't-
She's
She
always on.
never stops. She's always on.
Yes.
Always
Yep.
on. She's
Can't
more-
miss a place you've never been.
That's I
Oh,
love
that's a
that
great
line
line.
It's
so
so
much.
good.
It's so good. But face it, hubby, I'm really hot. You are though. You are very very hot, Saffron. Yes.
Yep. Mal's not having it though, and
Nope.
she says, "You can't just leave me here. You can't leave me on this lifeless piece of crap moon."
Mm-hmm.
And Mal's like, "I can and I will."
Yeah.
And she even says, "As a courtesy, you might start getting busy on that because all this chatter ain't doing me any kindness."
I love the jargon and just the cadence of
Yes,
the lines.
I just
in this show so
literally
much.
we talked about how we thought about doing a Parks and Rec podcast, but we'd just be quoting it the whole time. I'm almost having this problem with this episode.
Yes.
Like this episode's really quotable.
It really, really
like just
is.
even the long pieces of dialogue. I just want to read through them all.
For sure, yeah. I'm about to do it here in a second. So.
So Saffron insists that he has to give her a ride, mentioning that he can even stick her in one of the crates. He shoots the ground a couple times and she picks up her stuff to leave, mentioning this perfect job that she has lined up. Mal seems very uninterested. And we cut to Serenity picking up Mal and everyone wondering who bloodied Mal's nose, knowing it most likely wasn't Monty.
Right.
But I thought we loved Monty. We love Monty, right?
This was very cute. Yeah. And Wash, his little encounter with him too on the stairs.
Yeah.
And then that
We'll talk later then.
if he had fought that Sasquatch, we'd be picking his teeth out of the dirt.
Right.
Yes. Oh, so good. Everybody is finally back to themselves. And I
Zoe
appreciate it so much.
especially. I
Yeah.
like Zoe again a
Yes.
lot in this episode
Yes.
the
Yep.
whole way
I
through.
like
She's
Zoe and
consistent.
Wash.
Which is
And
why I
Wash.
do think
Yeah.
it was so important, and I think they were right to do this, to bring in two writers from previous episodes that did well,
Yes.
and let them get that creative juices working together and continue the voices that they've already built.
Right. Yes.
Rather than having a new writer come in and have to redo a voice and
I
like
completely
re-find
agree.
a place to do that.
Yes.
So then we cut to Inara pouring tea for her and Mal, wanting to talk to him.
What's your game? I offered you tea.
You know, fair. But I like what he says. He's like, yeah, and you invited me into the shuttle, and those are
Of
two
your own
things.
free will.
Yeah, two things that never happened before. Kind of puts me on edge. Makes me a little skittish. Is that what he says?
Yeah. You're using your wiles.
Yep.
What? Your feminine wiles.
Your feminine wiles.
Which is true. She was clearly buttering him up a
absolutely
bit.
is. Yeah,
Yes.
let's talk business. I'm not sleeping with you, Mal. Okay, poor Mal is having just a hell of a
I
night.
think I would have noticed. I think my keenly trained senses would have.
So then Inara is talking to Mal about how she hasn't had work in, what is it, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
They've been on all these backwater moons, and she's telling him there's other kinds of work, and the best job that they ever pulled was on a central planet.
Right.
And then
She's talking about Ariel then,
yeah,
right?
she must be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then we get into the altercation about the wobbly-headed geisha dolls.
Yeah.
Everyone
cute.
People love those.
It reminds me of all of our little pop figures, our
Yes.
Funko Pop,
Yeah.
which weren't a
Yep.
thing then. So,
Yep.
but yeah, people
They
love
call
those.
People love those.
Yeah.
It's true. Man, predicting the future. Nara says if she can't work as a companion, she might as well become a petty thief like him. And he's quite surprised to hear this and just taken aback for a
Well,
second.
this is after though he went back to saying getting in the way of her whoring. So he's already thrown whoring at her, and
Yep.
she uses
And
the word
she specifically
petty.
said, well, that didn't take long.
Exactly. And I hate that she starts backpedaling and trying to fix it, and he's trying to guilt her about saying the word petty, and she's just letting him get away with throwing around whoring again. It bothers me.
It's another one of those moments where when you look at it, it's like, this is what they're used to, even though it's not okay. She's
Right.
used to taking care of him in that way, and he's used to getting away with saying certain
Sure.
things. So it seems like the norm, but it's not, that doesn't make it okay.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, I love Mal and Inara. I love their tension. I love their chemistry. Yes, I want them to finally make out, but their relationship is dysfunctional.
Oh,
Please
quite.
don't mishear
Right,
me.
absolutely.
It is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it does raise the question, when he ends up, when she starts harping on him, I hate to call Inara harping on him. That's what she's doing. About not taking, a real job. When's the last time you took a real job? And that seems to be the moment where he really does decide that he's going to do
Yes.
the saffron
Oh,
job.
absolutely.
So is that to impress Inara, we think? Or did she...
That is a really
Maybe that's a
interesting
good point.
question.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because what we see is after the wobbly-headed doll caper and everything,
Right.
and
wobbly-headed doll
the
caper.
wobbly-headed doll caper, she's telling Mal, you haven't taken you're not taking any serious work, and
Right.
he's like, serious? Well, and she's like, what? What is it? And he's like, nothing. But like, did he step out and then immediately turn around and go back in and go,
That's what I'm
okay,
thinking.
Saffron's
Here's
in a
the
crate
plan.
in the hall, and so I
Yeah.
know she's going to try and screw us over.
Assuming
You want
that-
in on this? You want to be part of this, gang? You want to be part of our work?
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing.
Right. Assuming
so.
that all of our listeners watch the episode before they listen to this, hopefully you do. Join us on the live tweets and everything. You know now, after having seen the episode, that everyone on the crew knows that Saffron was in that crate when she
Yes.
comes out.
Yes.
And they're all forming this plan beforehand.
Right.
So yeah, it has to be something like that. Mal has to like turn around and go, or he has to go, no, it's nothing. Actually, it's something. You know? I do really like that line that she has when she says it's petty, and she's like, well, that's not what I meant. And then she says it in Chinese, but she just says petty again in Chinese.
That's
And he's
Chinese for petty.
That's Chinese
Well,
for
it
petty.
has
It's like,
a
"That's
nuances of
the nuances.
Yeah.
Many nuances. He just says it's nothing, and we cut to Act 2. We fade back in to Saffron telling the crew about the job.
Well, and we miss, right before we get that cut, we do see Mal flipping open the crate.
crate,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
And we get
Yes.
that reveal, and it's like,
I
oh,
forgot
Saffron's
about
been in the crate the whole time.
Uh-huh.
So now, having seen the episode, I'd recommend watching this episode again immediately after
Yeah.
watching it, because
I watched it twice today,
the
too.
following scenes with Saffron
Yes,
being
absolutely.
there
Yes.
and everyone
hysterical.
talking are hysterical.
Yes, Sarah and I
Yes.
were watching everyone's face and guessing at what they were thinking in the moment,
Yeah.
especially Jane and Kaylee, because
Yes.
Kaylee is just losing it the whole time. She's like
Kaylee
smiling and
so
she's like looking
funny.
around at everybody
Yeah.
like, guys, I'm in on the secret.
Watch this episode again, but don't look at Christina Hendricks or Nathan Fillion. Look
Yes.
at everybody else in this
It's
scene.
so good.
brilliant.
Yeah. And even Jane,
Adorable.
like, he doesn't know what to say. And I choose to believe that it's because he doesn't know what to say that he then ends up repeating her line to her.
Oh,
he
yeah.
just-
Works. He's
Because he looks at Zoe at one point like, I don't know what to do. And he looks back and he's like, yeah, I have a question. Because he's trying to act. But of course, Jane, they can't do the secret
Right.
or act.
Yeah, and I love so we've cut back into we're in the kitchen now, and everybody's sitting around, and
Right.
Mal is standing there with Saffron next to him, and they're starting to divulge this plan. And Wash goes, "I have a question. why is she here? And
Yeah.
then Kaylee has to cover her mouth and
Yeah,
starts
she's just,
laughing.
like,
She covers her
giggling,
mouth,
yeah.
looks the other way, and starts giggling.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we've seen before that as talented as our crew is, not the best ad-lib actors in the
No,
verse.
super
not
great
really.
at improvising. No.
I do like here that she says that they're going to be stealing an antique laser pistol of great
Right.
value called the Lassiter,
Yeah.
which there's no official note on this, but most of the internet thinks that this Lassiter is named after John Lasseter, who Joss Whedon collaborated with on Toy Story, the Pixar
Oh,
film.
that's cool.
So I do like that the MacGuffin here is named after that, and they talk about how great a value it is, and it's almost like Joss Whedon saying John Lasseter's a great guy and he's worth a lot. and so I like
That's
that
sweet.
reading
I like
of it.
that. Yep.
So she says the man who owned this is Hamer, and he's an Alliance member, and that he was a bioweapons expert during the war, and he would target neighborhoods with valuables, kill the people, and then take their goods.
Not just kill the people, but apparently, like, just send whatever his bioweapon was through
Yes.
and just, like, extinguish
Yes, the
all
town.
and there was
Like,
like no
everyone there.
cleanup
Yep.
or
Right.
anything,
The neighborhoods.
and you're just able to go through and take your pick of all the stuff.
Yep.
That's horrifying.
It is.
Yep.
That is
And that's what
awful.
she says he did to get this gun. Maybe questionable, having seen everything
Having
in
seen
this
the whole
episode.
episode, I don't think
And
we
Nathan
know.
Fillion doesn't believe it. We know from the way he talks
He
about it.
doesn't
He's like,
seem to believe it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So-
I'm sure he eats up babies, is what he
Yeah.
says later.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, he's like, he's going to come back in here and hug us when
Yeah.
he catches us.
Right.
Yeah. He
It's
did seem
hard
like a
to
sweet
say.
guy.
I mean, like, I feel like every single thing out of, like, here's the thing. Saffron believes everything she's doing is true. I mean, we're, whenever we
Right.
did our Mrs. Reynolds and talking about how Christina Hendricks would play Saffron as though, no, she believes this thing.
right.
But,
yeah.
like, everything coming out of her mouth has got to be a lie, right? She's always trying to figure out how to play someone at some point.
Well, I think that's kind of a theme of this episode too. Is these dichotomies where these two things don't have to be. They're not mutually exclusive.
Ooh.
So Duran can love, Yolanda, love his wife. He can be sweet and compassionate and caring when he sees her come back through the door and have slaughtered all of these people.
That's
Yeah,
true.
That's
Absolutely.
not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And he can also love her and not trust her. That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense to me too.
Yes.
Christina Hendricks, or Saffron rather, she can have this vulnerability that she shows to Mal be true and accurate and still be using it as a weapon against him.
No, absolutely.
And Mal believes that that's what happened there because
Right.
he says that he doesn't doubt that was a lie. There was truth in all of that. So I think that's probably true. Yeah. Good points.
We get the great moment where, Saffron says, I know what you're all asking. If she could do all this, why is she here on the ship? And then a few seconds later, Jane going, I got a question. She could do all this. Why, or if she knows all this, why didn't she do it? And just the looks that, Zoe rolls her eyes so hard, her neck pops.
And Saffron treats him like a dumb child, like, oh, honey,
Oh,
that's a great
sweetie.
question.
It's so good. This scene is amazing. I would watch.
Condescension there.
Like, I know that because we're doing the heist thing, we have to get, like, the voiceovers while we're seeing all this stuff going on.
Sure.
I would have happily stayed in this kitchen just
Right.
watching them talk about the plan.
Yep.
And continue to see the crew, like, snickering behind their backs, like, oh, we
Right.
got her this time.
And she's being so arrogant and
this is
smug.
what happens when you assume you're
yeah,
the
she's
smartest
like, oh,
in the room.
sweetie, no one died last
She is
time.
Hamiltoning it up in there.
Hashtag Hamilton podcast. Just kidding. So we find out that the gun is tagged and coded. As Kaylee says, every piece of pretty is, which I really like that phrasing. And that it can't go through any of the doors.
Yeah.
Anara comes in saying that they're dupes if they trust her. They're all idiots. And Mal asks if she has a better idea.
Well, if you happen to be a criminal mastermind,
Right.
like, they are. Mal is overselling it so hard in this scene when you watch it again later. And just, like, Anara is the only smooth criminal in the room.
It's true. And
right
she
now.
says later that the other people, that their performances were not as nuanced as she
Yeah.
might have hoped.
Yep.
She thought that it would give it away. Yeah.
Yeah, which we see in Kaylee because she's just so excited and in on the job. There's no mistrust in her at
Yes.
all. And she's obviously been thinking about it.
Right.
She has this plan already.
Kaylee doesn't have a dishonest bone in her body, so she just has to enjoy this all like it's a big old game in order to be able to get
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mal asks Zoe, she says she doesn't trust Saffron. And Saffron tells her, all you need to be a rich woman is get over it. And Zoe says, okay.
Oh, and she says,
punches her in the
"Hun,"
face.
right?
Yeah.
She calls her
through
hun.
it. Yeah, all you need
Yeah,
to get rich,
hun.
hun, is get over it.
Yep.
And then Zoe punches
Says,
her
okay,
in
and
the
then punches
face
her in the face.
I
and
would
says,
with her
love it.
left hand.
Yeah, a left hook.
and
yeah,
he says,
very
I'm
good.
in, and smiles.
Yeah,
She
that's
got what
one
she
of my
wanted out
favorite
of
Zoe
that.
moments.
Yeah,
Really
no,
good.
she absolutely deserved that too because Saffron kicked Wash in the head last time we saw
Oh,
her.
yeah,
So
definitely.
Zoe had been holding on to that for quite
Had
some
it
time.
coming.
So we cut to Simon, River, and Jane is explaining them the job and what they're going to be doing, being a little nicer to the brother and sister than he normally would, I think, because of that
Yeah.
guilt. He says, Captain says you're to stay put, doesn't want you to run afoul of his blushing psychotic bride.
Sure, right?
I love this line. She figures out who you are, she'll turn you in before you can say, don't turn me in, lady.
Classic Jane. I like it.
River obviously says she's a liar and no good will come of her, which you don't have to be psychic to know that.
Right.
Right.
Then Jane mentions that Heath says that girl folk aren't to be trusted as a rule.
And River, I love this so much. Jane's a girl's name.
Well, Jane ain't a girl.
Well, Jane ain't a girl. Yep.
And then he grossly reaches into his pants and says that he's willing to show her his
she
man parts
starts
if
in
she
on that,
keeps
do
saying
not
it.
like
Jane's
that.
a girl, which I mean, like,
Yuck.
okay, so I love that. Like, I don't like this. I'm along with Simon.
Right,
I'm trying to
right.
think of a way for you to be cruder. I just
Yeah.
can't.
Just can't.
But like the way that Jane says that, she starts in on that Jane's a girl's name
Uh-huh.
stuff. Like, obviously, this is something that he has had to deal with his entire
of
life.
course.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you just go by Cobb?
His masculinity was threatened there. And
Absolutely.
He was, none of the
By a
sympathy
17-year-old
of
girl.
feeling bad about turning them over last episode is going to change him being really upset by hearing that.
Of course.
So Jane leaves saying, I was going to leave your cards. And River says afraid and reveals to Simon that she's talking about Jane, saying, since Ariel, he's afraid that we'll know.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows that something happened because
Yeah.
of her abilities. Zoe runs into Inara, who says that she has jobs lined up, and Saffron is eavesdropping on them. She tells Zoe not to let Mal trust Saffron and says she'll trick him, and as far as she's concerned, he deserves it.
And I love that this whole conversation is set up
Yep.
for Saffron
Absolutely,
over here.
because
So
Mal
great.
is with Saffron and has
Yes.
obviously let her go. And I choose to believe that he's standing there the whole time and he just like says her name to get her to turn around. He didn't
Yep.
just walk around the corner. He's watching this probably.
Right.
And I really like that if you know this, you can watch Zoe's face and she has a huge smile on her face while
I
she's talking to Adar
know.
because she's looking the other way and Saffron can't see her face.
It's so great.
if you didn't know this, you'd almost think, that's bad acting. Why is she smiling so big?
I love that. See you when you're wealthy. And Zoe just grins and walks off. It's
Yep.
just, man, it's so good. This episode really does benefit from an immediate second viewing
does.
once you know that like everybody is playing Saffron
Uh-huh.
so hard.
So we now get
Make for a
our...
fun live tweet.
It
Yeah.
sure would. Yeah.
So we now get our typical heist voiceover with Wash explaining the layout, with Wash explaining and laying out the details of the plan in the voiceover as we see them enacting the plan. Mal and Saffron blend in with the hired help for a party and then get into the back door. Kaylee says that you can't take the goods out the door, but she had an idea to throw it in the garbage and reclaim it with a reprogrammed trash picking up drone. The drone drops the bin in the desert and they will pick it up later.
She's geeking out and being so smart and competent here and so excited.
And I love how everyone at the table is proud of her.
Everyone
Yes.
is
Which
so
Sarah
proud.
pointed this out
Even
earlier,
Jane
yeah.
is smiling really
Yep.
big.
Yep.
Everybody is super proud of little Kaylee in this episode.
Yes.
I
and
love
back off, Saffron.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
for
good.
real. Don't be rude, Saffron. Like, shut up. Like,
Yeah,
screw you.
Saffron's like just
Although it
totally
doesn't-
rude about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it doesn't bother Kaylee at all. I
No.
love that too.
Yeah.
She
Kaylee
knows what she's
it's a
doing,
great
yeah.
plan.
Yes.
And she
And
knows what
Saffron
she's
asks,
doing.
How-
Exactly. Yeah, like
Yeah.
whenever Kaylee's like, "You want to tell him?" and Juan's like, "It's your
It's
genius,
your genius plan.
It's so good.
And Saffron asking how they're going to reprogram a drone. Kaylee says, you deal with the loot. We'll deal with the bin.
Right.
Mind
Yeah.
your business.
Exactly. I like that.
Mind your business.
Kaylee is good with bullies.
Kaylee
And-
is good with bullies.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
Oh
She is.
man,
Yep.
I love that girl.
So we cut to Kaylee and Jane on the outside of Serenity.
They have to like grapple it. No, they have to like carabiner
Yep,
themselves
so
in.
they don't fall off the
Oof.
ship because there's a lot of wind. They're all
Right.
wrapped up like they're in the desert because there's so much wind. And they're going to
Mm-hmm.
float up to the underside of the estate to try to get to the box where they can reprogram this drone.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. This super rich estate with like the highest security imaginable
Mm-hmm.
has no like proximity alert for a giant spacecraft just like hovering right alongside your bathroom
Here's
window.
my headcanon. I just came up with it just now to fix
Okay.
this. So so they're all floating islands, right?
Sure.
You're going to have a
Also,
half-
neat concept for a planet, right?
Yeah, it's
Just
cool.
cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Also, that's probably where their whole budget for this episode went. Is
Yeah,
the
all the
effects for that because it
graphics.
looks
The
good.
graphics
It does
and
look
effects
great.
Look really excellent
looks
in this
great.
episode,
Yeah.
and all the rest of our sets are relatively mundane sets.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell that like most of the budget for this episode went into the effects to make them look really good. But headcanon for this proximity alarms and stuff. So you've got your floating island. I'm going to say that the proximity alarm is in a half dome that covers the top part of the island. The other side of the island is either just metal or earth that is like just the underside of the island or whatever.
Okay.
And maybe they've got like pressure sensors built into the underside. So if someone were to try to drill into it, those sensors would go off. But you can't have the proximity alarms going off all the time whenever the trash drone comes up to get your garbage.
My headcanon.
Okay, now that's fair.
My headcanon is that Wash and Kaylee, obviously we've seen that Kaylee can hack into like get radio
Oh
signals
yeah,
a little
she's
bit.
a super genius.
So
Just turn it
there's a
off.
party going on. There's lots of people arriving,
Sure.
and there's of course the servants arriving. So she just hacked in and got a code for one of the arrival codes and said, "Oh, we're one of the servant ships," and went in.
Perfect.
And then they got up there.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah,
I like it.
Sure, I don't
Excellent.
know.
We
Yeah,
solved
maybe.
your proximity puzzle.
Wonderful.
So meanwhile, Mal and Saffron are making their way through the building, having made it straight into the doors, carrying flowers, just
Yep.
like they're there to help out with the party. And they find the treasure room with all sorts of shinies on
Treasure
display.
room. I like that. Yep.
There's a phone booth in there right up against the wall. As soon as you walk in, they got the
Yep.
Laster right
Yep.
there on display. And
A
some
gorgeous
really cute,
candelabra.
a gorgeous candelabra. Of course, you noticed that. I'm super proud of you. And a really huge window, which
Yeah.
Saffron walks over and glances out of. And Vint and I learned something very
Yep.
interesting today that
Yeah.
happens in this episode.
So, in a future episode, we will meet a character named Jubal Early,
Yes.
who says that he's been following Serenity since they were on Ariel. Now, you don't really have any evidence of this if you're just casually watching, but you do, because when she looks out that window, a big ship flies by, and then a tiny one that's Jubal Early's ship flies by because he's following Serenity.
Yeah. So when you're watching this again, and if you've seen the series before and you know who Jubal Early is, when Saffron goes over to the window and looks out, pause, you're going to see the big ship flying off, but there's a smaller ship, and it's definitely Jubal Early's ship, which means that
Wow.
he is stalking Serenity even on this job.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So we cut back to Kaylee telling Jane not to touch something, just as he does, and gets shocked
course.
and falls.
Yeah.
We
And he almost
lose
slides off the
Jane.
ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fortunately they're attached, tethered to the ship.
Yes.
We come back to Mal spraying to see a laser grid around the pistol and trying to deactivate it.
Yeah.
Saffron hears someone coming, and a man enters.
Mm-hmm.
The man enters and says, "You." And Mal gets freaked out for a second. He says, "You found her." And he takes Saffron in his arms, and he goes, "You brought back my wife." And Mal is in complete awe.
Yes.
As we
here
cut
we
to our
are
act three.
again. Another husband.
Yep.
Durant is so sweet.
I
in this,
really
in this
like
scene.
this guy. I think that the actor
I'm
does an amazing job.
Isn't
Has
he
he? Do we have
darling?
any information on our guest actor this week? Or
So the actor here is Dwyer Brown, and he's had a lot of roles, but nothing really big.
okay,
He played the father to Kevin Costner's character in Field of Dreams.
okay.
He was
Oh
in
yeah. Okay.
he was in Dennis the Menace Strikes Again. And he was in the horror movie in the 80s House, which I really enjoyed, but I don't remember what he was in that. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that
Is
again.
House the one where like you went through the bathroom mirror into?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my god, that movie
believe so, yeah.
terrified me when I was a child.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, it's so scary. And it was like just this big pitch black thing, and there was a terrible claymation skeleton monster
Yep.
with wings like
Yep.
flying
That
through.
sounds familiar.
Everything
actually,
that an 80s horror movie should be.
everything. Wow.
I couldn't tell you a single other. Was the house haunted? Was that the? It was
Yes,
just-
it was
okay.
like on Indian burial ground or
Oh, of
something.
course,
I
yeah,
haven't
sorry.
watched this since I was a little kid, so if I'm getting things wrong,
Sure. Sure. Okay.
contact thegraphicast.com. Hit me up and yell at me. He was also in a few episodes of ER, Criminal Minds, and Ghost Whisperer, and Murder, She Wrote. So
Murder She Wrote. Used to watch
Nice.
the house with my grandma Jean.
that's
Good job,
that's about-
Dwyer.
yeah.
Dwyer.
So nothing really super notable, but I really like him here.
I like
He does
him.
an
He's
amazing
darling.
job. I
Yeah.
really, really enjoy him. Very, very naturalistic. I totally believe everything that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And is very clearly in love with Yolanda.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
darling.
So we cut
I keep
back
saying that.
from Act 3, and he's holding Saffron lovingly and says, "Oh, my sweet Yolanda." We learned a new name for Saffron.
I love
Her eyes
Mal in
get
background.
so wide. Yeah, Mal just
Yolanda?
mouthing Yolanda. Then he's Mal gesturing like, hit him.
Hit him.
Knock him out. Knock him
Knock
out.
him out. Hit him. And Saffron won't. Like, she's still holding on to him and, like, just is so thrown back by this, was not expecting this, and this is not a part of the plan.
Right.
And, you know, immediately starts talking to Duran Hamer,
Duran is what she calls him. Yeah.
about...
I think she said Duran.
I'm pretty sure it's Duran, because if she had said Duran in the show...
Because I
would've
thought
gone,
Duran.
I thought it was Duran.
Every time.
I
Was
don't
it
know.
Duran?
I thought it was Duran, but maybe I was just hearing it with my Oklahoma accent.
Anyway,
Oklahoma
Hamer.
ears. Hamer.
Hamer.
We agree on that.
Durin Hamer.
We do
Darren
get a
Hamer.
quick cut here back to Serenity, and Book's only role in this whole episode of
I saw
catching
that.
Jane's body and then dropping Jane's body.
3 seconds of book and that's it.
He has
It's like-
just Ron Glass had a super chill month.
Yeah.
Is all.
Yeah, they were just like, hey, we need you on set. For what? To catch Jane and then drop him.
It frankly,
All right.
yeah, like he wasn't even in the scene with everyone in the kitchen. So
No,
honestly,
yeah. I don't
it
know
was
where he's been-
really,
what he's
yeah,
been doing.
it makes it more conspicuous.
Right,
For
exactly.
the 3
Show up.
seconds, like if we just hadn't had that, like
Yeah.
if Watch
Maybe he was
could run
off
over
ship
there,
doing
but like
something, or,
sure,
you know.
maybe could have stopped his head from bashing
Yeah.
into the metal
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, it's just like here's Bug, JK.
Yeah.
And Zoe tells Simon that he has a patient and she goes out to help Kaylee. Then we cut back to Mal and Saffron, and the man Durin tells Mal that he owes him a great debt of thanks for returning the only thing he treasures here standing in his treasure room.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he asks if he owes him
6
anything.
years.
6
Yeah.
years.
Quite a torch
Yeah.
he's carrying. 6 years.
Absolutely.
I would have moved on.
And I really like
well,
Mal's acting
Christina
here in
Hendricks
this
didn't
scene.
leave you, so
That's true.
Yeah.
I really like Mal's acting here in this scene where he's like, he just wants to get the job done. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I don't want to prolong. He's like, no, Trip wasn't out of my way.
Yep, yep.
And then Saffron's
just
like, I
dropping
promised him
the way up.
800 square. He says, but we never agreed. And he's like, please, I'd be embarrassed. And so he's like, I have some. And then he's so caring here. He looks at Mal and her. He's like, are you hungry? You both look so tired. There's food. Yolanda, I'm babbling like a moon brain. I think,
Moon brain
yeah,
is what he
moon
says. I
brain.
don't know what that means.
Yep.
Well, we've heard it before.
Space slang.
Jane calls River moon brained at some point.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And then we kind of get some of the history here. And Durin says that Saffron had disappeared with Heinrich. Or that's what we learned, at least
Right.
from what he says.
Saffron just goes, Heinrich.
Yeah, because she forgot the name, as we learn later. And we start to see it, as Mal does, that she left this man with Heinrich, who was a security programmer, and then he got killed when he became useless.
Whoops.
So do you guys think that, okay, so again, during our Mrs. Reynolds, we talked about how Christina Hendricks had mentioned that whenever she's playing Saffron, playing a role, that she's just playing that role. So do you think that Christina Hendricks she's just now being Yolanda here in this point because that's the most useful situation? So like that has to be hard to be able to slip into a personality that you
Right.
were 6 years ago.
That's true.
Unless that was like your real personality.
Which I think she at least has more of her real personality there. Maybe not
probably.
her whole thing because she is still playing him, like even in
Right.
like trying to find her
Sure,
happiness.
yeah.
You find out later that it still was a game to where she was just trying to figure out how to be happy there.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, it was
originally
still
it seems
playing
like
the role,
he was
playing the role
originally
of
a
the happy
mark
wife.
because Yolanda wasn't her name, so she's at least lying
Right.
about that
Yeah.
because she says that that's not her real name.
Well, she says my name's not Yolanda, but
It
I would
could
say
be.
that too.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I kind of just believe whatever Mal comes to the conclusion of, and he says, I never thought it was, so I choose to believe
Sure,
it's not.
yeah. I mean, it's possible that she had like done some odd jobs and then found this guy, thought that she would just mark him, and then it turned out that he was like wicked into her and like super
Right.
rich. And then, like she said, I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to
Sure.
settle down. I thought that the money would help, and
Yep.
it didn't.
Yep.
So they passionately kiss, and they say, we have so much time to make up for it. And Mal says, that's my cue to skedaddle.
Right.
And Durin says, let me get your money. And he says, you won't disappear again, to Saffron.
Oh.
And she just goes, never. And I believe it in that moment. Like, I mean, I know that she's playing him,
Right.
but I can see how Durin, and obviously I think that at this point Durin knows that she's playing him as well.
Yeah.
But
does.
she
Poor
just,
guy.
she's, all I can
Yeah.
think of is whenever Anara said to her, you're amazing. Who are you?
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when he leaves, her look completely changes, and she says, we got to move fast. And Mal says, yeah, he'll come back and hug us in the act. Realizing this is kind of a sweet guy. Like,
He
he's
is
not
a
gonna
nice
be doing anything
guy.
here.
Yeah.
He
But
leaves-
again, you could be a sweet guy and
Yep.
murder an
It's-
entire
this is
planet
true.
and steal
This
all
is
their
true.
stuff.
It's true. You can still be sweet to this. Yeah, it's true.
So he does leave, and Mal thinks that Saffron has been lying more. He asks now why she needed help if she could have just as easily walked into this place because he would have opened his arms up to her.
Yeah.
And Mal thinks that she wants him to think well of her when she is gone. Could it
Right,
be,
right.
I've actually met your real husband, he says.
Ugh.
Mal finishes turning off the security grid, picks up the pistol, and turns to find Saffron has him at gunpoint.
Of course.
I don't know why he sat down next to her. What
In
was
the
he
ship? Yeah,
thinking?
no, yeah, we'll get there in a little
Yep.
bit, but no, I completely agree. Yeah.
The man that Saffron now confirms as Duran returns and says, now it looks like I'm the one that's intruding. And Saffron tries to play him again when she has nothing, no cards.
She never stops. She's never,
She said,
ever,
this
ever
isn't
stops.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
And Mal says, unless it looks like we're stealing your priceless lavender, because that's what we're doing.
Yep.
I
Don't
love
ask me
how
about the
Mal
gun.
Is slowly just making his way over to
I
Doran, like
know.
just holding the thing.
Yeah, and he's totally on his side. He's like, I'm going to tell you everything.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I appreciate your honesty. Not
you know,
a
a
lot,
lot.
but and I like that. It's almost that more of his like sweetness. He's like, you're being real with me. I'm not going to attack you in this.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And then we have one of my like favorite moments in this entire episode. So we see Mal goes and he chucks the last
Yeah,
one in
he
the
just
garbage
sneaks
chute,
off and throws it in there
and
behind
then
his
comes
back.
back in. But Saffron is looking over at Durin and she's got the gun pointed at him and she goes, don't look at me like that.
Yep.
And he just keeps looking at her and then she just screams, don't look at me like
she
that.
loses it.
She's
That's
Yeah.
the real her
The
right
veneer
there.
is
Like, there is
breaking.
no veneer
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is absolutely beginning to shatter. And like, oh my God, it's so good. Christina
Yeah.
Hendricks is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we cut back to we see Kaylee and Zoe on top of Serenity. They're trying to get the thing in. I love that Zoe is looking over, seeing the drone come towards them, and she just goes, Kaylee.
I really like that. Again, Zoe's
Great,
she's
perfect
so
in this
great in this
episode.
episode.
Yeah.
And they get the chip switched out.
They do their
the board
techno babble. Yeah.
switched
Sure,
out just
sure.
in time for the drone to pick up the trash that Mal has dropped.
Barely avoid being crushed to death.
And Mal pulls a gun on who he now lovingly refers to as Yosaffbridge, which I love.
That
Great
is
joke.
one of my favorite jokes in all of television history. Yosaffbridge is my absolute favorite thing. The first time I heard it, I like guffawed I had to pause the thing. I was laughing so hard.
It's so
and
good.
I felt like nobody else appreciated it as much as I did. So if you did, please get in touch with me on Twitter and tell me how much you, like me and Mitten, love this freaking joke.
So Saffron says, did you think I was a princess? That I would stay locked up here in the tower with you? And Durin says, I hoped. And Saffron says, you're a running fool. And Durin, showing that kindness again, says, I feel sorry for you. And she says, I'm not the patsy being stolen from. You should have called the feds. And he said,
Yeah.
I did. This ring here is a notifier. I called him as soon as you showed up. I did skip ahead a little bit. I do really like when Durin says, how long have you been with him? And Mel says, we're not together. And she
Right.
says, he's my husband. Mel says, well, who in the damn galaxy ain't?
So true.
Yeah, and I love whenever Durin is looking at Saffron and he says, I love you, Yolanda, but I couldn't think for a second that you actually came here for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, rough times. Everyone's
Yeah.
having a hard day.
Yeah, and he does. He says, you need help. And there's not like, I love you, but you need help.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I called the authorities because I want to help you. It's not because I'm against you. It's not because I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
It's because you need help. And that's why I have a hard time thinking of him as a monster, because he's like so good at that.
It's
And
true.
so
It might not be true.
It could be,
It
but
might not be true.
I just have a hard time with it because he's if he is that monster, he's tricked me.
Yeah.
So
true.
even that's what you want to do. So the authorities do show up, and Saffron and others, men, as we cut to our act 4. Saffron tries to sweet talk Durin into calling them off, saying, oh, I could offer you all these things, and you know how good I can make you feel.
What?
And Durin says, you're embarrassing yourself. And she kicks him straight to the head and says, I'm embarrassing? Who's the dupe on the floor?
She's so mad and so. The veneer is absolutely breaking. It's like
Yeah.
what we just
Yep.
said. Like
There
it
is no
humiliating.
acting
Yeah.
there.
It's
She's
falling apart.
humiliated.
Yeah.
She's heartbroken, and she has lost everything in that moment.
And on top of all of that, Malcolm Reynolds saw it all.
Yep. Oh,
Yep.
good call. You're right.
And I mean, Mal says they need to get going, and literally has to pull her out of the room because she's so stuck in like not being able to think of what to do next.
Right.
And they make their way through the hallways, assaulting an officer and evading some others. Saffron stops to reprogram some security and locks the officers in the building. They approach 2 more men outside and overtake them. And Mal keeps Saffron from grabbing one of their guns, and they get in their shuttle and take off. Now, one of those guns, interesting fact here, the pulse guns that Mal
Yeah.
shoots at one of the officers is the death ray, will be reused as the death ray in Dr. Horrible. It's the same gun. So if you know Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog with Neil Patrick Harris, then you will recognize this gun. So they take off on the shuttle,
Yes.
and Mal and Saffron are sitting there talking on the shuttle. And Mal's being really compassionate here. He's seen this woman, and he's seen the veneer break. He's seen
Right.
into
He's
who
seen
she
the
really
vulnerability.
is.
Uh-huh.
My name's not Yolanda. Like God, she's She's legit so interesting to me. Like I'm sad that the show did not continue past its first season, but I mean,
there's
like,
so many more good stories that could have come out of this.
I know. It would be
They were
so
building up so many
interesting
good things.
to learn more about Saffron and see her interacting with the crew more and more and just figuring out more about this person. Because I mean, like, basically what we're learning is that, like, she does all of this thieving for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Because she likes it. Because
You
she
should write
wants
some
to.
Saffron fan fiction.
I should write some
Ooh.
Saffron
You
fan
absolutely
fiction.
should. Yeah.
Man.
I will. I'm gonna do that.
Maybe we can, like, because of this podcast, get in touch with some of the people in control of some of the stuff, write fan fiction, and then perform it.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Odd Want Community Theater.
That's
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
A whole new
So-
level of geekery. I love it.
Saffron reveals that she actually tried, because this was a decent man.
Right.
And that it would help that he had money, because she thought, maybe if I have everything I want,
Yeah.
then I could settle down.
Mm-hmm.
She reveals that she neither married nor killed Heinrich, the security programmer.
She
Right.
didn't even remember his name.
Yep, she couldn't
Right.
remember his name.
Whoops.
Mal says, I don't reckon you did. Not many that you killed. Just put him in a position to die easy.
Yeah.
Which-
Harsh.
Mal knows that that's just as bad as
Yeah,
killing
Of
a man.
course, of course.
Saffron says that she should have killed Durin, and I really like Mal's response here. Right. The one guy who don't have it coming. The man who knows you, still loves you, treachery and all. No, can't have him walking about.
Oh, man. Oh, Mal.
And-
Is he right to the matter
Yep.
of things?
She starts crying, and
Christina Hendricks might have a direct line to my tear ducts. I can't really handle seeing her, like,
Yeah.
weep like that, even though I know that, like, well, like, and at this point, you don't know, right? Like, you think, okay, like,
Yep.
and I don't even know if Saffron knows at this point.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure she's actually feeling remorse and
Mhm.
confusion and guilt, but I think the tears are there for Mal.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe.
think. I think if she was just sitting in that room alone, she would be kind of staring off into space and thinking about
I
it.
Oh, but
feel
maybe
like
not
it's
crying.
But not
I feel like
crying
it's
like that.
real, but the problem is she's so used to faking it that she is convinced herself she's faking it in the reality of it. Like she's
Oh.
actually
that's
feeling
what I'm
it,
wondering,
but has
yeah.
convinced herself that she's faking
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So she's so
Sure.
used to faking the tears that when they really come, she thinks she made it happen.
Yeah,
wow.
she thinks this is another play. This is just because he's here. Yeah, it's
Aw.
really interesting. Yeah.
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 And we get this amazing line from Mal. She says, "You must be loving this," and Mal replies, "I've seen you without your clothes on. Never thought I'd see you naked."
It's
Yeah.
a great line.
And then Saffron asks if a person can change, and Mal says, "Depends on the person." I'm guessing the pain of this fades away. You'll go back to being who you are. And she says, "What's that?" And I love Mal here. He sits next to her. He's comforting his dad.
Yeah. I
in
still
this
think
moment,
he's dumb to sit
he
next
is
to her,
dumb.
though.
I mean, it's true.
He's dad.
Dad-
He's dumb.
listen, dads can be
Dumb
dumb.
Yeah, he grabbed his pistol, put it in his belt, puts on his belt, sits next to the woman who has duped him and is in the
Just
process of duping him now.
Dumb. Yeah.
But again, it's Christina Hendricks. You're not going to think straight either.
And Mal says, "A brilliant, beautiful, evil, double-crossing snake. Cheer up, Weepy. You made yourself a boatload of hard cash today. You can question the meaning of life on a floaty island of your own for a while."
Very true.
Then we learn that she took his gun out of
Yep.
his holster, saying, "You won't tell anyone about the breakdown?" Mal says, "I won't." And she says, "And I w't tell anyone how easily I got your gun out of your holster."
Consider
Mal
that a
says,
kindness.
"I'll take this as a kindness." Yep. Mal's so good.
He is.
So Saffron manipulated Mal into coming close to console and took the gun and holds him at gunpoint, calling him a gullible fool. And Mal says, "You can riddle me with holes, but that won't make what I saw anything but truth." And I do choose to stick with Mal there. I think
Yeah.
he does see the heart of things, and he sees that there was truth there. And she says, "I played you from minute one," because she can't even convince herself that she was being real. She can't
Yeah.
convince herself that she was actually feeling those
Right.
things. And Mal says, "You got me at barrel's end. Who am I to argue with you? What's your move?" Saffron makes him strip, planning on leaving him in the desert. And Mal says she won't catch his crew off guard as easily. But we cut the wash, saying that the ship won't turn. And Kaylee and Zoe realize
Right.
that Saffron must have done something and that they have to land the ship before the rendezvous. Mal, naked in the desert, as Saffron flies away, yelling, dancing off, jumping as like an angry
You better
cowboy.
run.
Reminds
Love
me of like
it.
old cowboy cartoons where you have like stamping Yosemite
Yeah,
Sam.
Basically, yeah.
I really like the moment where Kaylee does find out what Saffron did to the ship, and she says something in Chinese. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's something like "mother of all the whores in hell."
Yes, yeah, that's what
wow.
she says in Chinese. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We do cut to Saffron digging through this room-sized trash bin. It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. It's
yeah.
actually
Big old
pretty big.
dumpster. Yeah.
And in the desert here, and she's yelling, "Where is it? It's not in here!" And the camera pans up to see Inara outside the bin, dressed super fancy.
She's so glam
Yeah,
doing
she's
this
so
So
glamorous.
damn good.
Yes.
Especially compared to get like Saffron is now covered in
Yep.
refuse and
Yep,
just dirt
absolutely.
and filth and absolutely and just I love Honora's like, honey, you look horrific. And I
Oh, she's
love
loving
that
this.
Inara holds up the laster and she's like, you think this worked? Clicks it and then
Yeah.
literally pulls the trigger and it
Yeah,
fizzes out.
it's
Like
like, huh.
she was about
Oh
to
well.
she was gonna blast off Saffron's face.
Yep.
If that gun had worked, Saffron would be dead.
Yeah. But she says, "Oh well, still worth a fortune." And she pulls out another gun and says, "This one still works." Saffron asks what she is doing here, and Inara says, "Oh, this was my part of the job. I put on the big act, storm away in a huff, then I fly off, wait for you to double-cross Mel, beat you to the rendezvous spot, and grab the loot before you can get to it. Wait, you didn't see that coming."
So good.
And I like this, as Sarah had said earlier, she said, "I'm a little disappointed. Some of the crew's performances weren't quite as nuanced as they could have been.
Right.
I thought they might have tipped it, but."
Hubris.
But she says, "Yeah, oh, I guess not."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then she closes up the as she's closing up the dumpster. You just hear Saffron yelling, "You can't leave me in here! I
I
have
have a condition.
Just doing whatever she can to get out of a situation.
Yeah.
She's always lying. She always
Yeah.
lies.
Now we cut to what may be my favorite scene in an episode of Amazing Stuff.
Oh, it's so
That's
good.
almost completely unrelated to the rest of the episode, where Jane is in the med bay, unable to move.
Yes.
Simon says he got knocked out.
Simon
and-
says drink.
Yep. Simon says, and tells him that he hit his spine pretty hard when he fell,
Fine.
so that he knocked out Jane's motor functions so he wouldn't wrench his spine when he came
Right.
to. He then asked Jane how much he was offered to sell him and River out on Ariel. Jane calls to see if anyone is around, and River peeks her head in, and he goes, "Anybody else?" Now, we mentioned that there's a lot of lines that we wanted to read through. This might be something I want to read through because this is
Sure.
so impactful what Simon says here.
Do it.
He says, "You're in a dangerous line of work, Jane. Odds are you'll be under my knife again. Often. So I want you to understand one thing very clearly. No matter what you do or say or plot, no matter how you come down on us, I will never harm you. You're on this table, you're safe, because I'm your medic. And however little we may like or trust each other, we're on the same crew. Got the same troubles, same enemies, and more than enough of both. Now we could circle each other and growl, sleep with one eye open, but that thought wearies me. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what you're planning on doing, but I'm trusting you. I think you should do the same, because I don't see this working any other way." It's beautiful,
It's
because
so
there's that
great
beat.
silence.
There's that
Yeah.
beat there before he says, "I will never harm you."
I will
Yeah.
never.
And when
ever
he
harm
says
you.
it, there's so much truth in it. And this to me is like, it's guys, it's that family thing again.
It is.
Yeah.
This is a
It is.
sibling
So good.
looking at another sibling who has betrayed them and showing them the love and grace that is going to get them to change their ways.
Yeah.
Because being angry and circling at each other isn't ever going to change
Right.
anything. It's just going to
Yeah.
breed more
Well-
violence and more anger and more hatred.
And it's interesting too. I just realized, but like we see, Saffron who is constantly growling, constantly circling,
Yes,
like
sure,
constantly. I mean,
sure.
even people who, even Durin,
Absolutely.
who did not betray her, but she is the betrayer every single time. And we see Simon here has every reason to do something terrible to Jane, turn him into a
Yeah.
paraplegic, leave him on that table forever. And Simon refuses because he's
Yeah.
a real doctor and a good man, and Simon's not out to play anybody.
Yep.
No.
He
Yeah.
took an oath to
Yeah,
that's
as a doctor, that oath stands and he takes it to heart. And I love you can see River's face in the background while he's talking. She's so proud of
So
her
proud.
brother
Oh, it's so
Love
great.
that.
and the grace and
Uh-huh.
love that he
And
shows.
then, as Simon is stepping out of the room, we
Yes.
get that perfect,
Yep.
beautiful line of River just looking over at Jane. Also, I can kill you with my brain.
And she pops back out,
good.
leaving Jane to contemplate even more while
Right?
his motor
And he
functions
is
slowly come back.
unsettled.
Quite unsettled. So then we cut back to what the beginning of our episode
Yeah,
was, where
exactly.
you see Mal sitting naked
same exact
in the
scene.
desert
Yep.
and saying, well, that went well. And then
Yep.
we have Inara walk up behind him.
Yeah, I loved it. It's the exact same scene, except the earlier one was cut short before we
Yes.
noticed that
Right.
Anar's walking up
And the ship is right behind him. Yeah.
And she says, "You call this going well?" And he stands naked. We got the loot, didn't we?
Right.
Yes, but he says, "I call out the win. What's the problem?" And he stands there casually walking back to the Serenity completely naked.
I love how comfortable he is naked. And if he's
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
comfortable, then he's just faking it. But I think 'cause even when everybody else goes in, he still looks so comfortable. I
Yep.
think he's actually just
Yeah.
like,
Yep,
no.
It's not for anybody else.
Just-
Yeah,
He
Mal
just
is-
doesn't
does
bother
not
him.
care.
Mal is proud of his body, happy with his body. Just, here we are. I just got no clothes. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
He's not ashamed. And Inara defo checks out his ass as
Yep,
he's walking
she
into
sure
the
does.
ship.
Well,
she
who
did
wouldn't?
not check out his mitten filler, but definitely checked out his ass as he was walking in.
And I do like that Mal points out, you would have been heartbroken if you wouldn't have got to play this part. And she agrees. She's like, yeah, I would have been heartbroken. And she's like, all according to plan. They discuss the plan that we as the audience weren't even in on. And Mal's butt gets shown off quite clearly as he walks off.
yep, it sure
Uh,
does.
Asking Wash to take off and Zoe to get buyers for the artifact. I love Kaylee looking at him, keeping her eyes up, her head up a little bit more than usual, averting her eyes and smiling widely, going, "Good work, Captain."
Good work, Captain.
So cute.
I feel like also that like she also not ashamed of Mal's nakedness.
it's
No.
true.
She's
Not
walking up,
bothered.
she sees that he says, she's like, oh, okay, well, just eye contact.
Yep,
You know,
she's
she's
just-
not a-
she just almost thinks it's cute. She does that
Right,
little
yeah,
like,
That's what I
giggle.
thought. I was like,
Yeah.
she's, oh, that's cute.
yeah, she's not. Yeah, no. Kaylee has seen a penis before. Like she is not
No,
afraid.
no.
No, not. You
She's
know,
seen many a penis and many an engine room.
exactly. What?
Supposedly.
But yeah, really different from Wash, who cannot stop giggling like a
Right.
13-year-old girl,
Yes.
which I love because
Yeah.
that would absolutely
And
be
even
me.
Zoe's having trouble holding it
just-
together.
yeah. It's so good.
Yep.
So Mal stares out at the desert, stretches back, just leaning out with all of his nakedness, letting it all hang out,
Yep.
saying, "Good day," as
Good
the
day.
cargo hold goes to close, and we get that camera switch just in time
Yep.
to miss his junk as the door does close.
right.
And that's
And
the end
then
of
we
the
get our
episode.
credits.
Oh, how fun.
So much fun. Well, let's go ahead and get into our geeking out portion of the evening.
I love my captain.
Okay, what was your favorite part of this episode?
I'm going to have to say I loved that planet. What was the name of the planet? Bella something?
Belleraphon.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Belleraphon.
I was going to say that wasn't it. There was something.
I missed this earlier in my notes, but it's actually named after ships from other sci-fi shows, and
Oh, I
think it has a
wondered.
historical context. Let me look it up while we keep talking.
Sure. Well, I loved the world building of that entire planet, the big party, and Durin.
Yeah.
Just that scene with Durin when they first meet him is so sweet and so surprising.
Yeah.
I love that room that they're in too. So that's
The treasure room?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
the room is so good.
Well, and the view of that gorgeous garden, that
Yeah.
very well designed and formal garden.
Vinton
Yeah.
was telling me earlier, apparently they were shooting in California and they were just in a Japanese garden
Yeah.
that day. And so it was like, I mean, obviously they're
Gorgeous.
all like real places whenever they're
Right,
like out shooting
right,
things. But
of
anyway,
course.
and Christina Hendricks in particular talked about how much she enjoyed being, there for those shoots and how
Yeah.
lovely it was and all of that stuff. I think my favorite part of this entire episode is whenever Saffron cracks and screams, I said, "Don't look at me like that."
Yeah.
I am a sucker for vulnerability.
Yep.
And I
yep.
love finally being able to see this woman's vulnerability after
Yeah.
layer after layer after layer after layer of all of these walls that she has put up to protect
Right,
herself. And
right.
I mean, just like what Vinton was saying earlier, like she is playing everyone so
Yes.
much and so often that she doesn't even believe it whenever she is telling the truth.
Yeah.
She doesn't believe herself when she's being truthful.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that Christina Hendricks just knocked it right out of the park, and that is my very favorite part of the episode, I think.
So the planet where the action takes place, Belleraphon,
Belleraphon. Yeah.
is named after a spacecraft in the 1956 movie Forbidden Planet,
Oh.
and then the TV series Andromeda, as well as the series Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It originated in Greek myth and has been used as a name for both British Royal Navy and U.S. Navy warships.
Wow.
What was
Cool.
it in Greek myth? Do you know?
No.
Does it say? Okay.
Interesting.
My research has to stop somewhere.
What was your favorite part, Vinton?
Man, it's really hard to say because I adore the writing of the episode. I adore the writing of the scene where Simon is talking to Jane.
Yeah.
I just adore that moment. It's so good. But there's a lot of good acting in this episode as well. And Nathan Fillion does a great job. Of course, Christina Hendricks does a great job.
Yes.
It's really hard to say. And then our guest actor does a fantastic
Yes.
job.
Yeah.
So great.
I don't know.
You know what? That's fair.
Well, you know what I do know? I do know who Belleraphon was in Greek mythology.
All right.
Just looked it up. He was a hero of Greek mythology, the greatest hero and slayer of monsters alongside Cadmus and Perseus before the
Wow.
days of Heracles, and his greatest feat was killing the Chimera.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. I like
Impressive
that.
dude.
Yeah.
Rode around on Pegasus.
As
Yeah.
one does.
As
Right.
one does. So who do you guys think had the best performance in this episode?
Christina Hendricks.
Christina
Yep,
Hendricks.
Christina
Yeah.
Hendricks.
Yeah. Mhm. I like whenever we can all agree.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes it's clear.
Nathan Fillion's really good too.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
think
Yep.
he shows really good acting skills there when he's proud and naked, and
Sure,
when he's being
sure.
tricked, and
Yeah.
when he's of course just dumbfounded.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He does dumbfounded really well.
He does, yes. Yeah, he really does. But
Which
yeah,
is why it's why one of our favorite gifts to use is
Right,
while dumbfounded just with his hand going. "What?"
Excellent. Well, that was a lot of fun.
It really was.
Super
That
quick.
was a fun episode to record.
It was a really fun
Thanks,
episode to
y'all.
record. It was a fun episode to watch. So thank you, all of you, for joining us for the live tweet. If you don't know about that, we do those every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central. You can follow along on Twitter using the hashtag MFShindig. Speaking of Twitter, you can follow me at Elsa Grab the Salt.
I'm at Lizbeth Ray 555.
I'm at Flesh Eater, and you can find more of me at the Graphomania Podcast Network, graphocast.com, GRAPHOCAST.com.
You can follow us collectively on Twitter at Common Room Cast. We're also over on Facebook at facebook.com/Common Room Cast. You can send us an email at podcast@commonroomradio.com. We also have a website, commonroomradio.com. You can go and find all of our stuff there.
Yep.
If you like this show, if you want to hear all of the bloopers from the various and sundry, that's the second time this week I've used that phrase.
I love it.
Great.
Yep.
Various and sundry Mighty Fine Shindig episodes, then you can become our patron. All you have to
Yeah.
do is go over to patreon.com/Common Room Radio, kick us $1 a month or whatever you can afford, and we'll get you a postcard and all of those delicious, delicious gag reels, some of which are tastier and funnier than others, but they're amusing. I'm always amused by them. And I think that's basically. Oh, if you enjoy the show, head on over to iTunes, leave us a rating
Yeah.
review. We
Yeah.
haven't mentioned that in a long
Yeah,
time.
we do
Helps
need
people
some ratings
find
and reviews.
us.
We don't
Yeah.
have as many as we do listeners, so
Yeah,
you guys
that's
get
right.
out there. We need your help.
Exactly. So I
Call
think
to arms.
Yes, that's right. Call to arms. That's right. You're our crew. Get in there and do the thing.
We love all of you, and we
We-
appreciate you.
Yes, so much. We love all of you and appreciate you so much. After this, I think we've only got 3 more episodes of the show and then the movie. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for tonight. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. This was a blast. We love you. You're the best. You're the coolest. And we will see you next week. I'm Sarah Kate Bazant.
I'm Liz Stevens.
And I'm Vinton Bain. Also, I can kill you with my brain.